How can I? How can I? How can I be at peace if I'm not on my side? How can I be at joy if I'm not on my side? And some of us start to think, well, I've got to be on everybody else's side. I don't have time to be on my side. Well, let me tell you what you're doing there. What you are assuming is God is not active in somebody else's life. If you think you are accountable for the health, the harmony, the peace, the joy, or the freedom of another human being, you have forgotten what God is, what truth is, what principle is. Start remembering. It's really that simple. Start remembering. Yes, I need to show up for people. I need to be of service. But what service is it? I can't make someone happy. So I say, "You Made Me Love You" is a nice song, but it's not accurate. Nobody makes somebody do it. "You made me so mad." No, you didn't. And no, I didn't. I didn't make anybody mad. I provoked a thought, perhaps, but I didn't make anybody mad. I didn't make anybody happy. I didn't make anybody sad. I didn't make anybody... That's one of my favorites. "You made me feel bad." Well, what does that mean? What really does that... This is a little boomy. You made me feel... No, you didn't make me feel... I mean, could anybody accurately describe what it means to make someone feel bad? What it tells me is somebody didn't like what they thought when this subject came up, whatever it may be, and I resent you for bringing it up. Because now I've got to think these thoughts, feel these feelings, and have these sensations, and you're responsible. And I hate you. And it's like, you're missing the point. You're just missing the point. Speak out for the joy that you want. Speak out for the joy, but you've got to explain, what's the joy I'm willing to experience? What is the peace that I'm willing to experience? And do I really have to give up my peace and joy for somebody else's? Because somebody else isn't at peace? Because somebody else isn't happy? You know, David and I explored that with his dad and his dad's whole transition that's been taking months. And to look at it and say, you know, there were days David said, "I'm not going to see my dad today. I've got things to do." And it didn't make everybody around his dad happy. But that wasn't David's concern. It didn't hurt his father at all for him not to go that day. It didn't hurt anybody for him not to go that day. It's just that someday, tell me if any of you, I won't say guilty of this, but have found this in your own selves. When somebody didn't show up in the way you thought they should, who had the worst day? You or the one not showing up? Who robbed themselves of a great day because they were thinking about how somebody else is not doing it my way? Anybody? Yeah, it's something. And anybody in a relationship, I'm willing to bet, has had those thoughts. You know, what are our last 4 of the commandments? You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. And let me come back here so everybody can see me. And you shall not covet. Those are 4 attitudes of mind. Much more than the physical. They're attitudes of thinking. You know what it means to commit adultery? It means to make unpure. You know, adultery is so much more than cheating on a monogamous relationship. The reason it's called adultery, and it has nothing to do with adult, by the way, it has to do with adding an element into something pure. Be it a relationship, be it a thought, be it a circumstance, be it a job, be it your money, be it your body, to render it unpure with your thinking, with another person, with greed, with lust, with envy, with anger. It takes away the spirit nature, it interrupts the principle of flow in it. And so that's where thou shalt not commit adultery means don't put those other elements into your relationship with whatever. And let's start with your relationship with God, your relationship with principle. Do not add elements into that relationship that will make you want to hide from that relationship for fear. And now I do want you to know, God is not judging any of us. God has not made this relationship impure, not because God won't, but because God can't. God is not a person with judgments. God is not a person with opinions. God is principle. God is love. God is wisdom. God is love. God is. It's not that God does. God is. And we made up the word God to have communication. So, we don't have to worry that God's going to smite us. But principle will not allow us to go out of principle and pretend that we didn't. That's what we need to be aware of. The law is not going to stop being the law because we need it to be nice. You don't understand. I had to hurt somebody. You don't understand. I had to steal this. You don't understand. That principle doesn't work that way. I had to steal because I didn't think there was enough. That's all it comes down to. I had to take this from you because I didn't know how else to get it for myself. I had to rob that bank. I had to. And in our minds, in that moment, it's absolutely, we believed it, we were convinced of it, and now we're after the fact, and it's like, oh man, couldn't I have thought of something else? As we sit alone in our prison cell, now it may not be a jail, it may just be a chair in our living room. And we've got this cell, and we've got these secrets. And if those people at church knew I was a thief, if people in my AA group knew I was a thief, and trust me, if you're in an AA group, people assume you're a thief. And at some point, it's I can't tell my mother, can't tell my father, can't tell, and God hates me because I'm a thief. Let's start with first things first. God does not hate me. God's not mad at me. God's not worried about me. In the end, I'll be just fine. So if I'm not fine, it's not the end. And so you keep moving on. It's like, oh, wait a minute. God doesn't hate me. God's not mad at me for forgetting that I am a God being. If you start with that, start your day realizing there is no principle that is angry with you. Then you can start to lighten up and realize, oh, so I don't have to hide from the invisible presence which is all around me and I cannot escape. Really, we're trying to, and the way that we hide is to drink more, to take more drugs, to eat more, to spend more, to guilt more, to cut our skin more, to create more pain, to create more disharmony, to kill more, to shoot more, to cut more, to do all that stuff, to blot out our thoughts that we are less than beloved children of God. Start with, I am a beloved child of God, no matter what has taken place in my life. Whether I've done it or something around me has happened. Because in our codependence, we will take the blame for what we see. And that's why I always advise, get rid of the word bad from your, take bad completely out of your vocabulary. It is always going to be an inaccurate description. Bad will never appropriately describe anything or anyone. Bad things do not happen. Things I don't like happen. Things that scare me happen. Bad things do not. How presumptuous and arrogant of any one of us to think that a thing is bad. How do you know? How do you know what's the underlying cause going on? in someone's body, in someone's mind, in a big event, in a small event? How do you know? Can you prove to me that anything is bad? Anything? No. You can tell me someone is sick. You can tell me someone just got murdered. You can tell me someone just got robbed. They got hit over the head. Your favorite couple just broke up. You can tell me an earthquake happened. You can tell me a blizzard happened. You can tell me all sorts of things happened. You can't prove to me that they are bad. And you can try to convince me all you want. You can't prove it. Now, somebody comes to you and says this bad thing happens, and you say how? And the problem is when we resist that, the people start trying to prove it. Anybody in a relationship knows that when resisted, the partner has to keep trying to prove the point. David and I have gotten so much better about not resisting each other's point. If I'm throwing a fit, if he will just shut up for 5 minutes, I won't have to prove it to him how this is an awful thing. And vice versa. If I will just shut up for 5 minutes, it's over. Because there's nobody else rolling the dice in resistance. And we have a lot more peace around our house these days, let me tell you, because we're not trying to prove to the other one how bad things are. And so you see, this has to do with adultery. This has to do with thou shalt not steal. These things I'm talking about have to do with them. Don't try to steal someone's joy. Don't try to steal someone's peace. Get your own. Now we come into coveting. Now, oh no, for next one is, you shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. That doesn't mean the person next door, although it includes the person next door. You know, there's no payoff in hating your neighbor. There's no payoff in telling an untruth about your neighbor. Now, I've included myself in these behaviors that are not accurate. I certainly have bared or borne, or whatever the word is, false witness against my neighbor, my fellow person. I've done it repeatedly, sometimes just to show how smart I am, that I know how awful they are. No, see, you identify. You wouldn't find it funny. You know what I'm talking about here. This is about telling the truth about your neighbor, capital T truth. Telling the truth about your neighbor. And it's painful sometimes to tell the truth about your neighbor when you have judgments about their behavior. Your brothers and your sisters, we have judgments. Our parents, they're still our brothers and sisters. You know, to tell the truth about them. Oh, they are a fierce child of God. You know, they're a beloved child of God. Really? With that behavior, they're a beloved child of God? Really? I can barely see myself as a beloved child of God, let alone some of those people. I've read about them in the news. They must be awful. I've seen them on television. How can I tell the truth about some of these people and still be funny and still be sincere? How could I tell the truth about every single political candidate? They are beloved children of God. But we're talking about the other times are personalities. And clearly personality has come before principle. But where I come from, I'm taught principles before personality. And I think my judgment of the personality is more important than my acceptance of principle. But this is all if I want to experience peace. This is all if I want to experience joy. If you don't, then go back to your Facebook page. If you don't, go back to your gossip fest. If you don't want to experience peace, if you don't want to experience joy, which is your innate privilege, it is your divine inheritance. If you don't wish to experience wealth while you are here in this body, in this time, in this place, go ahead and have a bitch fest. Go ahead. You're allowed to do that within the laws of love too. and God still won't be mad at you. I will be, but God will not. Your neighbor might be, but I will not. Or God will not. You see, God doesn't forget because God doesn't remember. God just is. But us personalities. Oh, we're struggling, aren't we? I want to read something to you. I have to do it out of my iPad because I don't have the Eric Butterworth book here with me. I keep forgetting to bring it from home. And it comes from the 9th commandment here in his book, Breaking the 10 Commandments. And this part says, you are not responsible for what people do or say, but you are responsible for what you do or say or think about them. Do we hear the order, the principle there? You're not responsible for them, you're responsible for you. You cannot change them, but it is your mind, and thus you can change your thoughts. You can change the attitudes you hold toward them and your intentions of dealing with them. As you break through the crystallized shell of the 9th commandment, the first discovery is that you really cannot bear false witness. The reason? What you say or report on expresses where you are and what you are. When you bear witness to error, you reveal an awareness of error, perhaps a preoccupation with error in your own consciousness. As Walt Whitman said, the good or bad you say of another, you actually say of yourself. Now, do you like the idea of that when you hit send or post, you are saying some of these things about yourself? Does that make you feel better or help you to rethink? Maybe I don't want to send out what wasn't aware I thought of myself. If everyone really understood this, most negative criticism and gossip would be eliminated, and bridge clubs and coffee breaks might lose their reason for existence. You shall not covet. You shall not limit yourself by coveting that which is another's. You shall claim your own. Kenneth, would you do me a favor? Go into my office and get the Prosperity's 10 Commandments off my desk. I meant to bring that out and I forgot. You shall not limit yourself by coveting that which is another's. You shall claim your own. Here's the cool thing. If anybody envies somebody else's good, whatever it is, and remember, anybody else's good that you see is what you perceive as their good. And you get your own good. I used to be amazed and in awe of people that got to be on stage. I thought, I'll never get to do that. And I was envious. I was a little jealous of that they got to do. And then one day I realized, wait a minute, I can get on the stage if I want to be on the stage. I might have to do work to do it. I might have to develop a sense of humor to do it. Because I didn't have a great sense of humor at one time. I think I have a pretty great sense of humor now. And well, people laugh, so I'm judging by reaction I get. But do not covet their home. Turns out you can have a home. You can have a home. I didn't know that at one time until I got one. And then I realized, I can have a home. As I keep getting older, and I do keep getting older, as do all of you, doesn't mean anything. But in this span that we call time, each of us keeps progressing day by day by year. And so in that, we keep discovering yet another thing we can experience. We don't actually have anything. How do I know that? Because just about anything we have in the world, in the material world, can be taken away. So fast. A good flood, an earthquake, a fire, gone. Gone, gone, gone. Somebody drops dead, gone. That physical is gone. So what tells me, what I have is experience. What I have is thought. What I have is perception. The Prosperity's Ten Commandments says, you shall not limit yourself by coveting that which is another's. You shall claim your own. This has to do solely with transactions in the inner realm of mind, because that's where everything is. She goes on to say, covetousness is desire misinterpreted. Now I want to read you page 128 here. I really like this. It comes at the end of this book here. And there are 10 statements, affirmations. I look only to God for my prosperity. Do we hear that? That means it can come through the lottery, it can come through a mate, it can come through a parent, it can come out of the sky, but I don't look there. I can buy a lottery ticket, I can do all that, but ultimately it's going to come through good, orderly direction, which means it starts in thought. I look only to God for my prosperity. I don't look to luck. Luck doesn't exist. Number 2, I make no mental images of lack, which means I can't look to you as the blockage to my good. I can't think of who in my head is blocking my good. It's agony to think that, oh man, that's a lot of conversation going out the window now. A lot of thinking going out the window because I've created many mental images of lack. Number 3, this could kill us all. We could all drop dead right in this moment as soon as I say this. I speak no word of limitation. Yeah, exactly. Number 4, I let go and let God work in my affairs. You got to decide what God is if you're going to do that. I deal honorably with God and all God's pay clerks, which means I deal respectfully, honestly, in integrity with the time I agree to, with the commitments I agree to, in all of that. I keep my wealth circulating wisely, which means I do not hoard. I do not withhold my wealth out of fear that I won't have enough. I'm not saying don't have a savings account. What I'm saying is you don't have an exchange. You don't stop the exchange flow because I might not have enough tomorrow, so never mind. I'm not going to give to or tithe or anything. I'm just going to sit here and take pride in my cheapness. That's how I'll assuage it. I'll make it a big deal out of being cheap, and then that way I don't have to be known as generous and expansive. I use my wealth for good purposes only. This has to do with the adultery. I use my wealth for good purposes only, meaning I don't use my wealth, my body, my mind, my money, my stuff. I don't use it to make things in life more impure. I never strive to get something for nothing. Don't steal. I never talk poverty. I tell the truth about God's abundance. I take my eye off my neighbor's wealth. That doesn't just mean money. It means whatever my neighbor is enjoying. And I claim my own. And one last thing. Comes from Matthew 7, chapter 1, or chapter 7, verse 1. It starts with here in the Holy Spirit's interpretation. The New Testament, it said, judgment is like a knife that cuts the Son of God into pieces. Isn't that a lovely visual? For what you judge as separate from you is seen as separate, and so it cannot be seen as one. I say to you, lay your judgment aside. Trust the guidance of the heart by trusting God and God's Word. Does this make sense to you? Does this work for you guys? What we're saying is, what we're offering is freedom. The freedom to know we are loved, we are well provided for, and just because I don't see it at this second doesn't mean it's not here. And that's why we have to keep interrupting those words, those judgments. I tell you that God is love, and love is whole. Therefore, you cannot know God if you separate your brothers and your sisters from yourself. Do not place them above you or below you in your mind. And do not place them above or below one another. You know, you have those people, oh, they're amazing, they're just fantastic. You know, they are touched by God because you can see the light. What makes you think the ones you can't see the light aren't touched by God? Again, you don't know. Don't judge, accept. Spirit, show me the light in this being. For to separate them in your mind is to split your own heart, and a split heart cannot know love, because it is split, and so it is not whole. Look after your own heart, that it may be healed. Lay down your judgments, and ask only for love now. Do not take my words lightly without practice, for to listen and to agree, but not to practice is not to have heard. And one who will not hear cannot be healed. Seek out the prayers of your heart. So what are the prayers of your heart? What are the prayers of your heart? What are the prayers of your heart? To know love. And so what I advise this week is observe any places you've made an exception to love. If you don't see enough money in your pocket, don't declare in one form or another that you are not loved. It just means I don't see as much money in my pocket. If someone screams and yells at you this week, do not declare to yourself that you are not loved. Declare, someone is yelling at me. Period. If someone cuts you off in traffic, declare, oh, they cut me off in traffic. If someone does anything that does not measure up to your perfect standards, do not declare they don't love me because they're not measuring up to my perfect standards. They just didn't measure up because I have judgments about standards. Declare, I am loved. I am loved with an everlasting love. I cannot not be loved with an everlasting love. It is impossible. And I claim peace in my mind and in my experience today. Today, I choose for joy. The sun is out. And if the sun isn't out outside, it's on in my mind. And I see that I declared life, I declare joy, I declare love, I declare all that God is, and it's active and present in my mind and in my body now. So it is.